There are things in life you forgive because you love someone. And then there are things you forgive because you need to keep your own soul intact. I forgave my son 3 years ago. I meant it when I said those words. But I also know, deep in the quiet places of my heart, that I will never forget what happened. Not because I want to punish him, not because I'm holding a grudge, but because some wounds heal with scars, and scars are just memories written on your skin. People think forgiveness means erasing the past. It doesn't. It means learning to live with it. My name is Robert. I'm 67 years old. I live in a small town in Pennsylvania, the kind of place where people still wave at each other from their porches and know the cashier at the grocery store by name. I raised my son, Michael, in this town. Just the two of us after his mother passed when he was 8. I worked at the steel mill for 32 years, double shifts when I needed to, weekends when they asked. I wanted Michael to have what I never had, a college education, a future that didn't depend on his back and his hands. I was proud of him. God, I was so proud. He was smart, sharper than I ever was. He got a scholarship to Penn State, studied business, graduated with honors. When he came home for visits, neighbors would stop me on the street to tell me what a fine young man I'd raised. I'd smile and nod, but inside, my chest would swell. I thought I'd done something right. I thought I'd given him a foundation. He got a job in Philadelphia working for some financial firm I couldn't quite understand. He'd explain it to me over the phone. Investments, portfolios, clients. I'd listen, proud, but a little lost. It didn't matter that I didn't understand the details. What mattered was that my son had made it. He'd escaped the life of manual labor that had bent my spine and grayed my hair before 40. He called every Sunday. He came home for Christmas and Thanksgiving. He seemed happy. I thought we were close. I thought I knew him. When I turned 64, I started thinking about retirement. The mill had closed 2 years earlier, and I'd been working part-time at the hardware store, just to stay busy. I had some money saved, not a fortune, but enough. My pension, my savings, a small life insurance policy I'd kept since Michael was born. I'd always been careful with money, had to be. One afternoon in September, Michael called. It wasn't Sunday, which was unusual. He sounded excited, almost breathless. He told me about an investment opportunity. A sure thing, he said. His firm was managing a fund that was about to go big. Real estate development, overseas markets, things I didn't understand. He said if I got in early, I could double my retirement savings in 2 years, maybe triple it. I hesitated. I'd never been a gambler. But this was Michael, my son, the boy I'd raised to be honest, to be smart, to look out for his old man. He wouldn't steer me wrong. Dad, I wouldn't suggest this if I wasn't completely sure, he said. His voice was warm, reassuring. I've put my own money in. This is family. I want you to be comfortable. So I said yes. I transferred almost everything, $73,000, every penny I'd saved over 40 years of work. Michael handled the paperwork. He said he'd take care of everything. I trusted him. For 6 months, I heard nothing but good news. Michael would call with updates. The fund was performing well. Returns were strong. I'd made the right choice. I started to relax, started to imagine what I might do with the extra money. Maybe take a trip, maybe fix up the house, maybe just breathe a little easier. Then the calls stopped. At first, I thought he was busy. Work gets hectic, I told myself. He's a grown man with his own life. But when 2 months passed without a word, I started to worry. I tried calling, no answer. I left voicemails, nothing. I sent emails, though I'm not good with computers. Silence. Finally, I drove to Philadelphia. 4 hours in my old truck, my hands tight on the wheel. I had his address, an apartment in a nice part of town. When I got there, the building manager told me Michael had moved out 3 weeks earlier. No forwarding address. I stood there in the lobby, feeling foolish and old. My heart was pounding. Something was wrong. I could feel it in my bones. It took me 2 more weeks to track him down. A friend of his, someone I'd met at his graduation, finally returned my call. He gave me a new number. When Michael answered, his voice was flat, distant. "Dad." "Where have you been?" I asked. My voice shook. "I've been worried sick." There was a long pause. "I'm sorry," he said. "I should have called." "What's going on, Michael? Are you okay? Is it the investment?" Another pause, longer this time. "Dad, there is no investment." The words didn't make sense at first. I stood there in my kitchen. The phone pressed to my ear, trying to understand. "What do you mean?" "There was no fund. I made it up." My legs went weak. I sat down hard in the chair by the table. "You made it up." "I needed the money," he said, and his voice cracked. "I got into some trouble. Gambling. I owed people. Bad people. I thought I could fix it, pay you back before you ever knew, but I couldn't. I'm so sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry." I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. My son, my boy, had lied to me, had taken everything I had stolen from me. Not a stranger, not some con artist on the phone. My own son. "Where's the money?" I finally asked. "Gone," he whispered. "All of it." I don't remember hanging up the phone. I don't remember the rest of that day. I know I sat at that table for hours. The sun went down. The room got dark. I didn't move. I felt like someone had reached into my chest and pulled out everything that mattered. Not just the money, though God knows that hurt. $73,000, a lifetime of work. But worse than that was the trust, the belief that I'd raised a good man, the certainty that my son loved me enough to never hurt me like this. All of it gone. I'd spent 40 years trying to give him a better life, and he'd repaid me by taking the only security I had left. I thought about his mother, what she would have said, what she would have done. I thought about all those years of double shifts, of missing Little League games because I had to work, of going without so he could have. And I wondered where I'd gone wrong. What had I missed? What had I failed to teach him? For 3 months. I didn't hear from him. I didn't try to reach him either. I was too angry, too hurt. I'd wake up at 3 a.m, staring at the ceiling, replaying every conversation we'd ever had, looking for signs I'd missed, clues that he was capable of this. I couldn't find them, or maybe I just didn't want to. I sold some things, my truck, some tools I didn't need anymore. I took a second job cleaning offices at night. I was 64 years old, mopping floors in empty buildings, and I felt the weight of every year. People in town asked about Michael. I told them he was busy with work. I smiled. I lied, because the truth was too humiliating. My son had stolen from me, and I'd been fool enough to let him. He showed up on a Tuesday in January. I heard a car pull into the driveway and looked out the window. It was him, thinner than I remembered, older somehow. I didn't go to the door. I stood in the living room watching him walk up the steps. He knocked. I didn't answer. He knocked again. "Dad, I know you're in there. Please, I need to talk to you." I wanted to tell him to leave, to get off my property and never come back. But I opened the door. We stood there, staring at each other. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes. His clothes hung loose on his frame. "Can I come in?" he asked. I stepped aside. He walked past me into the living room, the same room where I'd taught him to tie his shoes, where we'd watched football games, where I'd helped him with his homework. It felt wrong having him here now, like he didn't belong anymore. "I came to apologize," he said. His voice was quiet, shaking. "I know sorry isn't enough. I know I can't undo what I did, but I need you to know that I hate myself for it, every single day." I didn't say anything. "I was in a bad place," he continued. "The gambling started small, just something to do with coworkers. Then it got out of control. I lost everything. My job, my apartment, my savings. I owed $70,000 to people who don't forgive debts. I was desperate. I thought if I could just get the money, I could stop. I could fix everything, but I couldn't." "So you stole from your father," I said. My voice was cold, flat. He flinched. "Yes." "You lied to me. You made me believe you were looking out for me, and you took everything I had." "I know." "Do you?" I asked. The anger was rising now, hot and sharp. "Do you know what it's like to work for 40 years and have nothing to show for it? To be 64 years old and have to start over because your own son betrayed you?" He was crying now, tears running down his face. "I know I destroyed your trust. I know I hurt you in a way I can never fix, but I'm trying to get help. I'm in a program. I haven't gambled in 4 months. I got a job, a real one. I'm going to pay you back, every cent, even if it takes the rest of my life." I looked at him, this man who used to be my little boy, and I felt something crack inside me, not forgiveness, not yet, but something softer than the rage I'd been carrying. "Why did you come here?" I asked. "Because I needed you to know that I'm sorry," he said, "and because I needed to see you, even if you hate me, even if you never want to see me again." I needed to try. He left an hour later. I didn't forgive him that day. I didn't tell him everything was okay, but I didn't tell him to never come back either. Over the next few months, he kept his word. He sent me money, small amounts at first, $200, $300. He called every week. I didn't always answer. When I did, the conversations were short, strained, but he kept trying, and slowly, very slowly, something in me started to shift. I realized I had a choice. I could hold on to this anger for the rest of my life. I could let it consume me, define me, turn me into someone bitter and hard. Or I could choose something else, not forgetting, not pretending it never happened, but releasing the grip it had on my heart. It took me a year, a full year of wrestling with myself, of praying, though I'm not a religious man, of thinking about what kind of person I wanted to be. And I realized something. Forgiveness wasn't about Michael. It was about me. It was about refusing to let his mistake destroy the man I'd spent 65 years becoming. I called him on a Sunday morning. "I forgive you," I said. No preamble, no small talk, just those 3 words. He was silent for a long moment. Then I heard him break down. "Thank you," he whispered. Thank you, Dad. I'm not saying everything's fixed, I told him. I'm not saying we're back to where we were, but I'm letting it go. I'm choosing to move forward. I understand, he said, and I think he did. 3 years have passed since that phone call. Michael has paid back $42,000. He sends a check every month without fail. He visits every few months. We have dinner. We talk. It's not the same as it was, and it never will be. There's a distance now, a cautiousness. When he tells me about his life, I listen. But I don't believe everything automatically. When he offers to help with something, I thank him. But I handle it myself. I love him. He's my son. Nothing will change that. But I don't trust him the way I once did, and I've made peace with that. People talk about forgiveness like it's a magic eraser, like once you say the words, everything goes back to normal. But that's not how it works. Forgiveness is a choice you make to stop letting the past poison your present. It doesn't mean you forget. It doesn't mean you pretend nothing happened. It doesn't mean you let someone hurt you again. It just means you stop carrying the weight of their betrayal on your shoulders. You put it down. You walk away from it. You choose peace over vengeance. But the memory stays. It has to, because memory protects us. It reminds us to be careful, to set boundaries, to guard our hearts a little more carefully. I forgave my son because I didn't want to spend the rest of my life angry, because I didn't want his mistake to steal my peace the way it stole my savings, because I wanted to be able to look at myself in the mirror and know I'd chosen grace over bitterness. But I will never forget. I'll never forget what it felt like to realize the person I trusted most in the world had lied to me. I'll never forget the panic of losing everything I'd worked for. I'll never forget the nights I couldn't sleep. The mornings I didn't want to get out of bed. The shame of having to start over at an age when I should have been resting. Those memories are part of me now. They've changed me, made me more careful, less naive, maybe a little sadder, but also, I think, a little wiser. I'm 67 now. I still work part-time at the hardware store. I've rebuilt a small savings account. Nothing like what I had, but enough to get by. I've learned to live with less, to need less. I've learned that security isn't just about money. It's about knowing who you are, what you stand for, what you won't compromise. Michael is doing better. He's been clean from gambling for 3 years. He has a steady job, a small apartment. He's building a life. I'm glad for him. I want him to be happy. But I also know that his happiness isn't my responsibility anymore. I spent so many years living for him, working for him, sacrificing for him, and in the end, it didn't protect him from making terrible choices. It didn't protect me from getting hurt. Now I live for myself. I take care of myself. I set boundaries. And when Michael visits, I'm glad to see him. But when he leaves, I don't spend days worrying about him. I don't lie awake wondering if he's okay. I've learned to let go, not of love, but of the burden of trying to save someone who can only save themselves. Last month, Michael brought someone to meet me, a woman named Sarah. She's kind, gentle. She works as a teacher. They've been dating for 8 months. Over dinner, I watched them together, the way she looked at him, the way he looked at her. And I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope, not for me, for him, that maybe he's building something good, something real, that maybe the worst is behind him. As they were leaving, Michael hugged me. "I love you, Dad," he said. "I love you too," I told him, and I meant it. But after they drove away, I stood on the porch for a long time, watching the taillights disappear down the road, and I thought about how love and trust aren't the same thing, how you can love someone completely and still protect yourself from them, how forgiveness doesn't erase history, it just makes room for the future. I think about his mother sometimes, wonder what she would think of all this, whether she would have forgiven him faster than I did, or slower, whether she would have been disappointed in him, or in me, for taking so long to let it go. I think she would have understood. She was a practical woman. She knew that love doesn't mean being a doormat, that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is hold someone accountable. I hope she'd be proud of the choice I made, to forgive but not to forget, to love but not to be foolish, to give him a second chance, but not at the cost of my own dignity. These days, I spend a lot of time on my porch, watching the seasons change, listening to the birds, thinking about the life I've lived, the choices I've made, the things I've lost, the things I've gained. I'm not a bitter man. I don't hate my son. I don't regret forgiving him, but I also don't regret remembering, because both are true. Both are necessary. Forgiveness without memory is naivety. And memory without forgiveness is prison. I choose to live somewhere in between, to remember the pain, but not live in it, to forgive the betrayal, but not ignore it, to love my son, but not lose myself in the process. There's a kind of peace that comes with age, a settling. You stop fighting so hard against the things you can't change. You stop expecting life to be fair. You stop believing that people will always do the right thing. And somehow, in accepting all of that, you find a quiet strength, a resilience. I survived what my son did to me, not just financially, though I'm getting by, but emotionally, spiritually. I survived the loss of innocence, the death of the illusion that love alone can protect you from harm. And I came out the other side still capable of love, still capable of forgiveness, still capable of hope. That, I think, is the real victory. Not that I got my money back, not that my son is doing better, but that I didn't let it destroy me. I didn't let it turn me into someone I wouldn't recognize. I stayed myself, maybe a little scarred, maybe a little more guarded, but still myself. If there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's that forgiveness is a gift you give yourself. Not because the other person deserves it, not because it makes everything okay, but because holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It doesn't work that way. The person who hurt you moves on with their life, and you're left carrying a weight that will eventually crush you. So you put it down. You forgive. Not for them, for you. And then you remember. You remember so you don't make the same mistake twice. You remember so you can protect yourself. You remember because your past is part of your story, and you don't have to erase it to move forward. You just have to stop letting it write your future. I forgave my son 3 years ago. I meant every word, but I will never forget what happened. Not because I want to hurt him, not because I'm keeping score, but because forgetting would mean pretending I didn't learn anything. And I learned so much about trust, about boundaries, about the difference between love and enabling, about the strength it takes to forgive and the wisdom it takes to remember. These lessons are mine, paid for with pain and disappointment and $73,000. I won't give them up, not for anything. So here I am, 67 years old, still standing, still living, still loving my son in my own way, and still remembering, because both are possible, both are necessary, and both, in their own way, are acts of grace. Have you ever forgiven someone you could never forget? Do you think it's possible to truly move forward while still carrying the memory of what happened? I'd like to know.